palace was quiet, the kind of quiet that made footsteps sound louder than they should. Marcus carried a small crate in his arms, following the twisting corridors. He had been told never to wander, never to step beyond the paths shown to him. But he had lost sight of the others when the halls divided, and now he was alone. He tried to retrace his steps, but every corridor looked the same, smooth silver walls glowing faintly with strange blue light. He came to an archway darker than the rest, black stone curved overhead, carved with symbols that shifted as though alive. A faint mist rolled from the crack between the door and the floor. Marcus hesitated, his breath shallow. He should turn back, he should wait, but something inside him pushed him forward, as if the chamber itself called his name. Slowly, he pressed his hand against the heavy door and pushed. It swung open with a deep, echoing groan. The room beyond was unlike anything he had ever seen. The floor glowed under his boots, clear like crystal, showing streams of light flowing beneath. The air vibrated as though the chamber itself had a heartbeat. At the center rose a tall spire, silver and gold twisted together, reaching higher than he could see. Strange runes burned faintly across the walls, moving like waves on water. The chamber felt alive, and for a moment, Marcus thought he had stepped into the chest of some great sleeping beast. He stepped closer. His breath misted in the cold air. The crate in his arms felt heavier, but he could not look away from the spire. His fingers brushed against one glowing panel on the floor. At once, light exploded across the room. The spire pulsed with a blinding flare, and the runes along the walls lit up in fire-bright patterns. The hum deepened into a low rumble that shook his bones. Marcus stumbled back, heart pounding, fear gripping him. Then he heard them, boots striking the ground in unison, fast and sharp. He turned, too late. The chamber doors burst open, and guards rushed in, their tall armored forms filling the entrance. Their spears crackled with energy, tips glowing blue-white. One guard pointed at Marcus and shouted in their tongue, voice full of rage. The others stormed forward, surrounding him in a circle of metal and hate. Marcus raised his hands, dropping the crate, but the guards slammed him to the glowing floor. His chest hit hard, the breath forced from his lungs. Shackles clicked onto his wrists, heavy and cold. One guard struck him across the ribs, forcing a cry from his lips. His face pressed against the crystal floor, but even through the pain, he saw the light beneath him, still pulsing, reacting to his presence. Then the air changed. The guards froze. They stepped back, lowering their heads. From the doorway came a tall figure, moving with the grace of a predator. She wore robes black as the void, flowing like liquid shadow. Her eyes glowed like molten fire, and her presence bent the air itself. The mistress had arrived. Every guard dropped to one knee, heads bowed. Marcus lay trembling on the ground, feeling the weight of her stare. She walked across the chamber floor, the runes shifting at her steps, the spire humming in response. She stopped just before him. Insolent human, her voice cut like steel, sharp and filled with venom. You trespassed where none should go. Her words were clear enough for him to understand, though her tongue twisted in strange tones. Marcus coughed, struggling to breathe, but her eyes forced him still. This chamber, she said louder, so all the guards could hear, has been sealed for 1,000 years. Even my kind dare not enter without my command. Yet this creature, she gestured at him with disdain, steps inside and defiles it. The guards roared in fury. Their voices bounced off the crystal walls, filling the chamber with hate. They demanded his blood, called for his death. One raised a spear, ready to drive it through his chest. Silence. The mistress's command crashed like thunder. The chamber grew still. She lowered herself, crouching until her burning eyes were level with his. Her hand, cold and strong, gripped his chin and lifted his head. He tried to look away, but her power forced him to meet her gaze. You should be ash, she whispered. Yet the chamber awakened to you. Do you even know what you have done? Marcus's lips trembled. I don't. His voice was hoarse, broken by fear. Her expression hardened. She rose to her full height, her robes sweeping like storm clouds. No human should live after this trespass, but the room sings for him. She turned, her voice carrying across the chamber. He shall not die here. He will be judged. The guards shifted uneasily, confused and afraid, but none dared to question her. Take him, she commanded. Bind him and prepare the trial. All will see what becomes of a defiler. The guards yanked him up, dragging him across the glowing floor. His body ached with each step, but his eyes, against his will, darted once more to the towering spire. It pulsed again, brighter, as if alive. For a brief heartbeat, it seemed to answer him, as though recognizing his presence. The mistress saw it too. Her glowing eyes narrowed, and a shadow of thought crossed her face. She stood still, watching until the doors closed behind him. Marcus stumbled as the guards pulled him through endless silver halls, his wrists bound tight, his chest aching. Fear gripped him, but so did a strange question burning in his mind. Why had the chamber reacted to him? Why had she, who could have ended him with a word, chosen instead to spare him? The answer, he felt, would not bring safety. It would bring something far more dangerous. The chains around Marcus's wrists cut into his skin as the guards dragged him through the wide palace halls. Their armor clanked with every step, and none of them looked at him as a man, only as a prisoner. The silver walls shimmered faintly with light, but to Marcus they felt cold, like the inside of a tomb. He could still hear the hum of the forbidden chamber in his head, still feel the strange power that had pulsed when he touched the crystal floor. That memory gave him no comfort now. The doors ahead opened with a hiss, and the guards pulled him into a vast hall filled with alien nobles. The ceiling arched high above, painted with glowing symbols that moved like living creatures. Hundreds of sharp, unblinking eyes turned toward him. They were the council, the mistress's nobles, dressed in robes of violet, silver, and gold. Their faces were thin and cruel, their mouths twisted in disdain. The mistress sat at the center on a raised throne. Her black robes spilled across the steps like shadows dripping downward. She leaned against one arm of her seat, her glowing eyes fixed on Marcus as if she could see straight through his flesh and bone. The guards forced him to his knees before her. His head bowed, but not out of choice. The weight of her presence pressed on him, making every breath heavy. "Insolent human," one noble spat, his voice high and sharp. "He has defiled what none of us would dare touch. The law demands his blood." "Yes," another shouted. "He is a stain upon this palace. Kill him, mistress, and cleanse the shame." The hall filled with shouts, hundreds of voices rising together in anger. They called for his execution, his body burned, his bones crushed, his name erased. Marcus clenched his fists, feeling their hate wash over him. He knew he was only one man, trapped in a place where humans were nothing more than tools or slaves. His heart pounded, but he forced himself not to beg. The mistress raised her hand. At once the hall fell silent. Her eyes glowed brighter as she stood, her tall frame commanding the room. "You all cry for death," she said slowly, her voice echoing through the chamber. "But tell me, why did the chamber awaken?" A heavy silence followed. The nobles glanced at each other, but no one spoke. The mistress descended the throne steps, her robes trailing behind her like a river of night. She stopped before Marcus, close enough that he felt the cold energy radiating from her body. "That room has been sealed for centuries," she said. "Even I do not walk its floor without cause. Yet this human entered, and the chamber did not destroy him. It sang." Gasps rippled through the hall. A few nobles shook their heads, others sneered as though the thought itself was impossible. "A trick," one shouted. "The room is broken." "Or cursed," another added. "Do not mistake chance for destiny, mistress." The mistress's voice cut them down. "I do not mistake. I saw it with my own eyes." The spire glowed brighter when he looked at it. The runes pulsed in rhythm with his breath. "Do you think coincidence holds such power?" The nobles fell quiet again. Marcus felt the weight of their stares burning into him. He wanted to speak, to deny, to tell them he did not understand. But the mistress spoke first. "He will not be executed. Not yet. He will face trial." A storm of voices erupted at once, the nobles roaring in protest. "Trial? He deserves none." "Kill him." "A human cannot be judged like us." The mistress raised her voice, louder than all of them. "He will be tested. If he fails, his blood will stain the stones. If he survives, then we must face the truth of what we witnessed." The council quieted, but their faces were twisted with fury. None of them wanted to see a human spared, but none dared to openly defy her word. The mistress turned her gaze back to Marcus. She crouched down, her glowing eyes locking on his. Her voice dropped, low and cold. "You will fight. You will bleed. And if you live, the chamber's choice will be confirmed. Do you understand?" Marcus swallowed hard, his throat dry. I don't even know why this is happening." "I didn't mean silence," she hissed, her hand snapping out to grip his jaw. Meaning is nothing. The chamber does not awaken for mistake. It awakened for you. That alone demands trial. She released him, shoving his head down as she stood. The guards dragged him back, pulling him away from the throne. The nobles whispered and hissed like snakes, their voices sharp but low. Marcus could not catch their words, but he knew they wanted him dead. The mistress returned to her throne, her robes spilling around her. "Prepare the arena," she commanded. "Let every soul see what becomes of the defiler. If fate has chosen him, let fate prove it before us all." The guards pulled Marcus toward the heavy doors once more. His chest tightened, his breath quickened. An arena, a trial. What kind of beasts would they throw at him? He had no weapons, no armor, nothing but his bare hands. Yet as fear rose in him, another memory returned. The light of the forbidden chamber, pulsing with his steps. The runes glowing brighter as he touched the floor. He had not imagined it. Something in that place had recognized him, even when no one else did. The doors slammed shut behind him as the guards dragged him deeper into the palace. His heart pounded, but he clenched his fists, whispering to himself in the silence of the hallway. If the chamber had chosen him, then maybe, just maybe, it had not done so by mistake. Marcus's wrists were raw from the chains as the guards dragged him through tunnels that grew darker and colder. The glow of the palace walls faded behind them until only torchlight guided their path. The air smelled of dust, rust, and something rotten. He could hear distant roars, heavy and guttural, echoing through the stone. His chest tightened. Whatever trial awaited him was not meant to test, it was meant to kill. The guards stopped before massive gates of black iron. Strange symbols carved into the metal pulsed with faint light. One of the guards struck the gate with his spear, and it opened slowly, groaning like a dying beast. Beyond lay the arena. The ground was packed dirt, darkened with old stains. The walls were high, lined with jagged spikes, and above them sat thousands of aliens in tiered stands. Their eyes glowed in the shadows, rows upon rows, eager for blood. The noise grew as Marcus was shoved into the center of the arena. Jeers, laughter, and curses rained down on him. He felt like an animal thrown before a pack of wolves. At the highest seat, the mistress sat on a throne of carved stone, her black robes flowing, her eyes fixed on him. She raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent. Her voice carried across the arena, steady and sharp. "This human defiled the forbidden chamber. You cry for his blood, but fate must decide. If he dies here, then the chamber's song was false. If he survives, then perhaps destiny speaks through him. Watch and see which truth will stand." The crowd roared again, their hunger for violence shaking the ground. Marcus stood alone, chains still heavy on his wrists. He had no sword, no shield, nothing. His heart raced, his throat dry. He knew they had not brought him here for a fair chance. They wanted a show. The gates at the far end of the arena groaned open. From the darkness beyond came a roar so deep the ground trembled. A shadow moved, then a massive creature stepped into the light. Its body was covered in thick scales, its arms as wide as tree trunks, its claws dripping venom that hissed when it hit the dirt. Its eyes glowed yellow, fixed on Marcus with hunger. The crowd screamed with delight, chanting for blood. Marcus stumbled back, his chains clinking. The beast lowered itself and charged, shaking the arena floor. Dust rose around its thundering steps. Marcus dove aside, barely avoiding the massive claw that smashed where he had stood. Dirt and stone exploded into the air. He rolled, coughing, heart pounding. The chains slowed him. His wrists burned as he pulled against them, desperate. He had to move faster or he would be torn apart. The beast turned and swung again, its claws cutting through air with a shriek. Marcus ducked low, the tips grazing his shoulder. Pain seared through him, but he kept running, circling the arena. The crowd shouted, some mocking, others screaming for the beast to finish him. Above them all, the mistress watched silently, her eyes unblinking. Marcus knew he could not run forever. The chains were heavy, but they could also be a weapon. As the beast lunged again, Marcus wrapped the chains around his fists, bracing himself. At the last moment, he stepped aside and slammed the chain-wrapped metal into the creature's eye. The beast shrieked, stumbling back, its claws flailing wildly. The crowd gasped. Marcus staggered, his arms aching, but he had drawn blood. Black liquid oozed from the creature's eye, burning the dirt where it fell. Enraged, the beast roared and charged again. Marcus ducked, grabbed a shard of broken stone from the ground, and jammed it into the wound. The creature convulsed, smashing its massive body against the arena wall. The spikes tore into its back, ripping scales free. Dust rained from the shaking stands. Marcus was thrown to the ground, his ribs screaming with pain. He coughed blood, forcing himself to rise as the beast pulled itself free, still alive, still furious. The chain around his wrist dangled, stained with black fluid. He tightened his grip, pulling the metal taut. The beast lunged one final time. Marcus ran forward instead of back. He leapt, wrapping the chain around its neck as its claws raked across his side. Pain ripped through him, but he held on, the chain biting into both of them. The beast thrashed, bucked, slammed against the walls, but Marcus pulled with everything he had. His arms screamed, his body shook, but he refused to let go. The creature's roars grew weaker. Its legs buckled. With one last pull, Marcus felt its neck snap beneath the chain. The beast collapsed, shaking the ground as it fell. The arena went silent. Marcus staggered back, his body covered in blood and dirt, his breath ragged. He looked at the corpse, the black fluid spreading across the arena floor. His vision blurred, but he forced himself to stay standing. He would not fall, not yet. Above, the nobles stared in stunned silence. Never had a human survived such a trial. The mistress rose slowly from her throne, her eyes locked on him. Her lips curled, not in scorn, but in something colder, curiosity. The crowd erupted, half in rage, half in awe. Some demanded his death still. Others whispered of prophecy. The mistress raised her hand and the voices fell quiet again. "The trial is done," she said, her voice carrying through every corner of the arena. "Fate has spoken. He lives." Her words struck harder than the beast's roar. Marcus dropped to his knees, his body trembling, but he lifted his head just enough to see her. For the first time since stepping into the forbidden chamber, he realized his true trial had only begun. Marcus's body shook as the guards dragged him from the arena floor. Every muscle ached, his ribs burned with fire, and blood soaked his torn shirt. The crowd still roared above, their voices split between fury and disbelief. Some shouted that he should die anyway, that no human could be allowed to live after stepping where none should. Others whispered of omens, of fate, of powers older than the mistress herself. The heavy gates clanged shut behind him, and the noise of the crowd faded. The guards half pulled, half carried him through a dim corridor that smelled of smoke and blood. His feet stumbled, and he almost fell, but the chains on his wrists kept him upright. They shoved him into a stone chamber, cold and damp. He dropped to the ground, gasping, too weak to rise. The door slammed shut, leaving him in darkness, broken only by the faint glow of a torch. For a long moment, he thought he would die there. His vision swam, his breath rattled, but slowly his mind cleared. He had survived. Against every odd, against a beast no man should face, he had lived. His fists clenched, the memory of the chain around the monster's throat burning into his skin. The door creaked open, spilling light across the cell. The mistress entered, her robes flowing like liquid night. She did not need guards. Her presence alone was heavier than any chain. She stood before him, her glowing eyes fixed on his battered form. "You live," she said coldly. Marcus forced himself upright, leaning against the wall. His chest heaved with each breath. "Barely." Her lips curled, though it was not quite a smile. "You did more than live. You fought with chains on your wrists, with no blade, no armor, and you slew what has ended dozens of warriors before you." Marcus shook his head. It wasn't strength, it was luck. The mistress stepped closer, her shadow stretching across him. "No, luck does not awaken the chamber. Luck does not make the runes burn. Luck does not make the spire sing." Her voice lowered, sharp as a whisper in his ear. "You are something else, human, and I will know what." She studied him for a long time, her burning eyes scanning his face, his wounds, his every breath. Marcus felt the weight of her stare, but he held her gaze, refusing to look away. For the first time, he saw something different in her eyes. Not only anger, but hunger for truth. The mistress straightened, turning away from him. "The council will not be pleased. They wanted your blood. They will call me weak for sparing you. Some may even plot against me." She looked back, her expression unreadable. "Do you understand what you have done?" Marcus's voice was hoarse. "I didn't choose this. I didn't even know what that place was. And yet you are at the center of it." She circled him slowly, her robes brushing the stone floor. "You trespassed where no one dares. You survived the trial no one survives. Now whispers rise that you are chosen. Do you know what danger that brings? Not only to you, but to me." He looked up at her, his jaw tight. "Then why spare me? Why not kill me and end it?" The mistress stopped before him. Her lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Because I do not fear them, and because I wish to see what you are. If the chamber truly chose you, then perhaps destiny placed you in my path. If not..." Her hand brushed the hilt of a dagger at her side. "I can always end you later." The words chilled Marcus, yet strangely he felt a flicker of strength. She could have killed him already, in the chamber, in the arena, here in this cell. But she hadn't. For reasons he could not yet see, she needed him alive. She turned toward the door, her robes whispering against the stone. "You will be moved. Not to chains, not to the slave pens. You will stay where I can watch you. Where the council will see you under my eyes and nowhere else." Marcus blinked. "So what am I now? Prisoner? Toy? Experiment?" The mistress paused at the doorway, glancing back, her eyes glowing brighter. "You are a question, Marcus, one I intend to answer." The door shut behind her, leaving him once again in the dim cell. But his mind no longer swirled with only fear. A question. To her, he was a question worth keeping alive. Hours later, guards returned, not to kill him, but to move him. They led him through hidden passages, past guarded doors, and finally into chambers far more lavish than any human had ever seen. A bed carved from silver stone, walls lined with flowing patterns of light, food placed on a low table. He stared, confused. It was not freedom, but it was no dungeon either. And as he sat on the edge of the bed, his body still aching, his mind refused to rest. He could feel the hum of the forbidden chamber still inside him, like a heartbeat that was not his own. The mistress's words echoed in his ears. He was alive, not because he was strong, but because something in that chamber had chosen him. And now, both his fate and hers were tangled together. Whatever trials lay ahead, he knew they would be far worse than the monster he had already slain. The chamber he was given was silent, too silent. Marcus sat at the edge of the silverstone bed, staring at the glowing walls. Food sat untouched on the low table, rich and strange, its scent filling the air. He could not eat. His mind was trapped between fear and confusion. He had survived the arena, survived the beast, but survival felt like stepping into a deeper trap. Every moment since entering the forbidden chamber had pulled him into something larger, something he did not understand. The door opened without warning. The mistress entered, her robes flowing like living shadow. She did not bring guards. She did not need them. Her presence alone was enough to fill the room with tension. Marcus stood quickly, though pain shot through his body. She raised her hand slightly. "Sit." Her command carried such weight that his knees bent before his mind decided. He sat again, his hands tightening into fists against his legs. She paced slowly around the chamber, her glowing eyes never leaving him. "You are restless. Good. A restless man is harder to break." Marcus kept his voice steady. "You brought me here, not as a prisoner, not as free. What am I to you?" She stopped, turning to face him fully. For a moment, her face was unreadable, cold and sharp as carved stone. Then she spoke, her voice quiet but heavy. "You are insolence made flesh, a defiler of what is sacred. And yet, you are also a mystery. The chamber awakened to you. The beast fell to you. Do you understand what that means?" Marcus shook his head. "I only did what I had to do. Anyone would fight to live." Her eyes narrowed. "You think I cannot see the truth? Others have fought in the arena, stronger, trained, armed, all fell. But you lived." "Why?" She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the faint shimmer of energy across her skin. "Do not lie. I will know it." He clenched his jaw. "I don't know." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then the mistress's lips curved into the smallest, coldest smile. "Honest, or foolish." She turned away, pacing once more. "The council stirs against me. They say I am weak for sparing you. They plot in shadows, seeking to turn your survival into my shame. Already they whisper that I have broken the law to protect you." Marcus frowned. "Then why protect me at all? If they want me dead, why not give me to them?" Her head snapped toward him, eyes burning brighter. "Because I will not bow to their demands. I rule, not them. And because something inside me whispers that killing you would be waste. Perhaps danger. Perhaps destiny." The word hung in the air, heavy and strange. Marcus felt his skin crawl. Destiny. It was the same word he had thought of when the forbidden chamber pulsed to his presence. The mistress drew closer again, standing before him. She leaned forward, her gaze sharp as blades. "Tell me, human, when the chamber lit, when the spire sang, what did you feel?" Marcus hesitated. Part of him wanted to lie, to say he remembered nothing, but he could still feel the hum in his chest, deep and steady, like a second heartbeat. It felt alive, like it was breathing with me, like it knew me. The mistress's eyes widened for just an instant before her mask of control returned. She straightened, crossing her arms. "So it is true." She turned her back to him, her voice cold but softer now, as though she spoke more to herself than to him. "The chamber does not awaken without cause. If it answered you, then it marked you. That mark will bring danger to us both." Marcus stood slowly, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "Then maybe let me go. If I'm such a danger, release me." Her laugh was sharp, echoing off the walls. "Release you? No, you are mine now, Marcus. The council may call you a stain, a trespasser, but to me you are a blade. I will decide whether you are used or destroyed." Her words chilled him more than the arena had. She turned back, her glowing eyes locking on him. "You will stay here, under my watch. You will eat what I give, sleep where I allow, breathe because I permit it. But know this, if the council strikes at me, they will strike at you as well. And when they do, you will fight again." Marcus's fists tightened. He wanted to speak, to argue, but his voice caught. He realized the truth. He had no freedom, no choice. He was bound not by chains, but by the mistress's will. She stepped closer, her voice lowering until it was almost a whisper. "You should hate me. You should fear me. And yet, when you looked at me in the chamber, when you stood against the beast, you did not bow. You met my eyes. No one does that, not even my own kind." Marcus forced his voice steady. "Maybe that's because I'm human. We don't bow easy." Her eyes burned brighter, and for a heartbeat her lips curved, not in mockery, but in something sharper, almost amused. She turned away, moving to the door. "Rest," she commanded. "The council will come for us soon enough." The door shut behind her, leaving Marcus alone once more. He sank back onto the bed, his body trembling from more than wounds. The mistress had not killed him, but she had claimed him. The council hated him, yet something in the chamber had marked him. And as the silence closed around him again, Marcus realized his greatest battle was not with beasts or chains. It was with the mistress herself, and the strange bond forming between them, whether either of them wished it or not. The palace shifted at night. By day, its silver halls glowed with soft light, filled with the noise of nobles, guards, and servants. But when darkness fell, the glow dimmed, the corridors fell silent, and shadows stretched long across the walls. Marcus lay awake on the silverstone bed, listening to the silence, his body still aching from wounds that had not fully healed. He felt watched, even in solitude. The hum of the forbidden chamber still pulsed in his chest, as though something inside him refused to rest. The door opened without sound. He sat up quickly, heart racing. The mistress stepped inside, her black robes flowing like smoke. The glow of her eyes burned faintly in the dark. She closed the door behind her and stood for a long moment without speaking. Marcus could feel the air grow heavier, as though the room itself bowed to her presence. "You do not sleep," she said finally. Marcus's voice was low, rough. "Hard to sleep when I don't know if tomorrow means another beast or a blade." Her lips curved faintly, though not with warmth. "You survive because you are stubborn. That stubbornness will keep you alive, but it will also draw blades faster than any beast." She moved closer, her gaze never leaving him. "The council has gathered. They whisper against me. Some already speak of war. You are their excuse." Marcus frowned. "War? Over me?" "Yes." Her eyes narrowed, the fire within them glowing brighter. "They say I have broken tradition, that I keep a human where only nobles belong. They say your survival is not fate but trickery, and that I have allowed insult to remain unpunished. They wish to remove me, and you will be their banner." Marcus stood slowly, though his body ached. "Then kill me. Take away their excuse." Her eyes flashed, and in a blink she was before him, her cold hand gripping his throat. Her strength was immense, far beyond human. He gasped, his hands instinctively clutching at her wrist, but she held him firm. "Do not offer your death so freely," she hissed. "I decide when you die." Her grip loosened, and she stepped back. Marcus coughed, breath burning in his chest. He met her eyes, anger and defiance pushing against fear. "Then what do you want from me?" She stared at him, silent for a moment. Then her voice lowered. "I want you to live. Not because you are strong, not because you are clever, but because the chamber chose you. If I kill you, I kill an answer I have not yet found." Her words lingered, heavy. Marcus realized then that she was bound as much as he was, bound not by chains but by questions neither of them understood. Before he could speak, the door burst open. A guard stumbled in, kneeling quickly. "Mistress, forgive the intrusion. The council moves. Armed men gather in the lower halls. They mean to storm your throne." The mistress's expression did not change, though her eyes burned hotter. She waved the guard away, and he fled as quickly as he had entered. She turned back to Marcus, her voice sharp. "It begins." Marcus stiffened. "They're coming for me? They are coming for both of us." She moved to the wall, pressing her hand against a hidden panel. A section of the Silverstone slid aside, revealing a narrow passage. "The council does not want only your blood. They want my throne. Tonight, they will have neither." Marcus hesitated. "You want me to run?" Her head snapped toward him, her eyes glowing like fire in the dark. "No. You will walk beside me. You will see the truth of their hate, and if fate has truly chosen you, then you will survive again." She stepped into the passage, her robes brushing the walls. Marcus followed, his heart pounding. The walls closed behind them, leaving only the faint glow of alien lightstones embedded in the stone. The air was tight, heavy, filled with the echoes of their steps. They emerged into another chamber high above the throne room. Through slits in the wall, Marcus could see below. The council nobles had gathered, dozens of them, their robes shimmering as they shouted. Armed guards stood at their sides, weapons raised. Their voices filled the hall, calling for the mistress's death, calling for Marcus's execution. The mistress stood tall, her hands clasped behind her back, watching them from above. "Do you see?" she whispered. "They fear you. They fear me. They fear what we might become together." Marcus stared at the scene below, his chest tight. "Then they'll kill us both." She turned to him, her face close, her eyes burning with strange intensity. "Unless you prove them wrong again, unless you survive as you did in the arena, unless you stand with me." Marcus's throat went dry. He was no warrior, no leader. He was only a man who had wandered into the wrong chamber. Yet the path behind him was gone. Ahead lay only the mistress and the storm of the council's rage. The chamber below erupted as the nobles drew their blades, their guards surging forward. The mistress pulled Marcus toward the stairs. "Come, insolent human. Tonight we fight not for freedom, but for power. And power decides who lives." Marcus's chest burned with fear, but his fists tightened. The forbidden chamber's hum still pulsed in him, steady and strong, as though it whispered that this was not the end. He followed her down the hidden stair, into the fire of the council's revolt. The throne room thundered with chaos. Nobles shouted above one another, their voices sharp as blades. The guards loyal to the mistress clashed with those sworn to the council, steel against steel, sparks flying in the dim light. The air filled with the roar of battle and the acrid sting of smoke from burning torches knocked to the ground. Marcus followed the mistress down the hidden stair. His heart hammered in his chest, but his fists clenched tight. He had faced beasts before, but this was worse. An army of nobles, every one of them wanting his blood. At the bottom of the stairs, the hidden door slid open, and they stepped directly into the storm. The mistress did not hesitate. Her presence was fire and shadow, her voice rising above the clash. "Traitors!" she roared. "You dare lift weapons in my hall?" The council leaders turned at once, their faces twisted with fury, their hands pointing to Marcus. "There! The defiler! She protects him. Kill them both." A wave of guards surged toward them. Marcus stumbled back, unarmed, but the mistress moved like lightning. Her hands glowed with power, flaring arcs of fire that struck the first attackers, hurling them across the floor. Their screams echoed through the hall, silencing some, enraging others. Marcus ducked behind a broken pillar as a guard swung a blade at him. He grabbed a loose chain from the ground, his only weapon. With desperate strength, he swung it wide, striking the guard's helmet and knocking him back. Another came at him, spear thrust forward. Marcus sidestepped, wrapped the chain around the shaft, and pulled hard. The spear clattered free. He slammed the butt into the alien's chest, sending him sprawling. The mistress fought like a storm beside him, every movement graceful and deadly. Her robe flowed like smoke, her hands alive with fire and shadow. For every guard Marcus struggled to hold back, she struck down 5 more. But there were too many. The nobles shouted orders, their voices sharp. Take the human. He is the weakness. Marcus's chest burned as 3 guards rushed him at once. He blocked one spear with the chain, ducked another blade, but the third cut across his shoulder. Pain flared hot, blood dripping down his arm. He staggered, nearly falling, when the mistress's voice split the air. Enough! Her power exploded outward. The ground trembled, the walls shook, and a ring of flame burst around her. The guards nearest her were thrown back, their armor scorched. She stood tall, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, her voice shaking the hall. You will not take him, she declared. You will not take my throne. If you wish for war, then war you shall have. But understand this, the chamber chose him, and now so do I. The hall fell into stunned silence. Even the sound of clashing steel slowed as her words echoed. The council stared, their faces pale with shock and rage. To claim a human as chosen was unthinkable. To claim him as hers was worse. It was rebellion against their very order. One noble hissed, his voice trembling with fury. You shame us all, mistress. You tie yourself to filth. Then you are no longer our mistress. The nobles raised their weapons together, their guards rallying. The revolt surged once more. Marcus gritted his teeth, blood running down his arm, but something inside him steadied. The hum of the forbidden chamber still pulsed in his chest, stronger now, louder, as if answering the mistress's words. He raised the chain again, planting his feet beside her. Then they'll have to get through me first, he said, his voice rough but clear. For a heartbeat, the mistress turned to him. Her burning eyes softened just slightly, as though something inside her shifted. Then she faced forward again, her voice a command. Then fight, human. Fight as you did in the arena. Show them why fate spared you. The battle roared back to life. Marcus swung the chain, striking one guard's jaw, then turned the spear he had stolen against another. Every strike felt heavier, but the strange hum inside him gave him strength he did not know he had. The mistress fought at his side, fire and shadow tearing through the attackers. Together they pushed back the wave. At last, the revolt broke. The nobles, seeing their guards fall and their power burned away, retreated to the edges of the hall. Some fled, others fell silent, their courage drowned by fear. The mistress stood tall among the wreckage, her robes torn, her power still crackling in the air. Marcus staggered beside her, bruised, bleeding, but alive. She raised her voice once more, sharp as thunder. Let all of you remember this night. You raised your blades against me, and I remain. You raised your blades against him, and he still breathes. He is mine now, by right, by choice, by fate, and any who dare strike at him, strike at me. The nobles lowered their heads, some in shame, others in silent rage. None dared to move. The mistress turned, her eyes glowing like embers, and for the first time, Marcus felt the weight of her words. He was no longer just a trespasser, no longer just a prisoner. He was something else now, something the entire palace would have to reckon with. And as he met her burning gaze in the silence that followed, Marcus understood one truth. The battle was over, but the war for his fate had only just begun.